Hey guys, welcome to the Cinema Corral. This is the section of my YouTube channel where I talk about the latest releases and let you know if they're worth your time and money. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 3 of the 5 releases that came out the week of August 16th, 2019. In this video, I'm talking about Good Boys, Blinded by the Light, and 47 Meters Down, Uncaged. I'll be talking about the other 2 movies, Where'd You Go, Bernadette, and the Angry Birds Movie 2 in a later video. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, Good Boys is the first one we're going to be talking about because it's the first one that I saw. This is made by the same creative team behind Sausage Party, Superbad, Neighbors, and it follows 3 6th graders as they're trying to, get more experience on kissing before going to a kissing party, and they end up in a whole mess of shenanigans. I didn't think this was all that funny. Now, the cast itself is pretty decent. The kids are talented, and I'm not in any way slamming the kids. The kids turned in a pretty good performance given the material that they had, but my biggest problem with this, the story itself is cliched, you've probably seen it somewhere else, but the jokes in this movie are very repetitive, and it feels pretty stale not long after the film starts. The majority of the jokes can be boiled down to kids don't know what a thing is, kids don't know what a sex thing is, or kids swearing. There's not a lot of variation to the jokes here. So more often than not, I was not really bored, just kind of unfazed. A lot of these jokes you've probably seen before and probably handled better elsewhere. The biggest problem though, in a lot of these jokes, there are some jokes here that really could have landed if they were not shown in the trailer. A majority of the big hitting jokes, the ones that they really wanted to be knee slappers, you saw them in the trailer. If you have seen the trailer, you've seen basically the best jokes in this movie. And I know that when you're cutting a trailer for a comedy, you usually want to put a taste of the best, but don't spoil your best jokes. The film is kind of formulaic. This gets a little bit spoilery, but there is a third act breakup. I just kind of found myself rolling my eyes at that point. In terms of editing, it's alright. There aren't any special edits. There's nothing amazing about the cinematography. It's all just kind of perfunctory, but there are occasional bits where there are some stupid edits that really bothered me. And it usually happens when they're riding off on their bikes and they got a rap song playing in the background. They cut it up. They cut this footage up so much and it looks like the film is just stuttering, and it was really annoying. Now, I mentioned that a lot of these jokes you've probably seen done elsewhere or better. That doesn't mean that there aren't jokes here that don't work. There were the occasional jokes that got a little bit of a chuckle out of me, but they're kind of few and far between. The dialogue here is nothing special. Really, this movie could just be boiled down to it's nothing special, but there is a moment here where there's a really forced dialogue transition from one topic to the next, and it feels like they wanted to get to that point in the dialogue, but they didn't either have the patience or the skill to take it from one point to the other. This movie isn't awful. It's nowhere near as bad as Stuber in terms of comedies this year, but it's really not worth going to see in theaters. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a C. If you're into this kind of comedy, if you liked the other movies that the creative team behind this movie worked on, you might get a kick out of it. I know the audience I was with was laughing it up, and that's fine. I don't want anybody to feel stupid because I didn't like a movie. I just didn't think that it was all that good. Next up, we have Blinded by the Light. I'm going to be completely honest right now, right up front before we get started. I am a big Springsteen fan. My dad hooked me on Springsteen. I've been a fan since I was a teenager. I love his music. I think he's a brilliant musician. So I might be coming into this a little bit biased. I don't think I am. There is a lot to really like about this movie. So it doesn't really feel like it's a Bohemian Rhapsody situation where a lot of people came out liking that movie because they heard songs they liked. There is a genuinely good film here. Now, it's not perfect. It has its flaws. But for the most part, it's a charming love letter to Springsteen's music, and it's got a very strong cast. The main character, Javed, is played by Vivek Kalra. I really hope I didn't butcher his name. He's a fantastic actor. He brings such a joy to this character. It's based on a real person's story. He's very likable and endearing, but the movie is not afraid to show that he can be selfish, he can be very much about himself, and he can become a little bit unlikable. The characters here, they largely feel very real, so their struggles feel very authentic. I found myself relating to quite a few of them, even though I am not Pakistani. I've never had to experience a lot of the struggles that Javed experiences in this movie. I've never had to deal with overt racism. I've never had to deal with being an immigrant. I've never had to deal with really overbearing parents, but I still felt like I could relate to him. A part of me felt like I was with him, and that's a sign of a strongly written character. In fact, a lot of this movie just really resonated with me. Now, my favorite band in the entire world is Metallica, but the scene where Javed first listens to Springsteen is just so powerful, and it very much reminded me of the first time that I listened to Metallica. Because regardless of if it's Metallica or Springsteen or U2 or whatever, everybody had that one thing that they got super invested in, and it really resonated with me. There's some great visuals in that sequence. I really like the fact that they have the lyrics on the screen. That's a nice touch. In terms of musical sequences, that's the best one. That is like the greatest sequence musically in this film. Unfortunately, it feels like they're kind of tiptoeing on that musical genre there. They don't really seem to want to fully step into that. I've seen people say, they should have just done it like Rocket Man, where it gets crazy out there and it's all kinds of visual stuff going on and it's a treat to look at. I do kind of wish that they might have done a little bit more visually when it came to the musical sequences, but I also kind of appreciate that they kept it a bit grounded in reality. And to be fair, there aren't really a whole lot of quote-unquote straight-up musical sequences. The closest that we get are the Thunder Road and Born to Run sequences. Those feel like something that you might see in a musical, and I don't know, they do and they don't work for different reasons. I liked them, but I don't know, I feel like a little extra pizzazz might have elevated it from what it is to something fantastic. In terms of the movie as a whole though, I feel like they could have trimmed a little bit of the fat. There are some scenes in there that really probably didn't need to be in there. Near the end, I found myself wondering when things would start winding down. It's not like I was displeased with the film or wanted it to end, it just started to drag a smidge. This isn't really a genuine criticism. Javed's new friend Roops lets him borrow his copies of Born in the USA and Darkness on the Edge of Town, and so the day after he listens to Springsteen for the first time, he starts singing a lyric from the song The River from the album The River, but he didn't get a copy of The River to listen to. Again, not something that takes away from the film, just something that I thought was kind of funny. In the end though, I'm going to go ahead and give Blinded by the Light a B+. If you're a Springsteen fan, if you just love good movies, go check this one out. Apparently it's not doing the numbers that Warner Brothers wanted for this film, which is a shame because it is a genuinely good film. And last up, we got 47 Meters Down, Uncaged. This is a sequel in title alone, really, to 47 Meters Down that came out, I think, 2 years ago. The cast here is adequate. This is a shark movie, if you couldn't tell. But there's really not a whole lot of substance to this movie. The characters are either unlikable or bland and two-dimensional. I really didn't care all that much, and I guess that's really the point with one of these things. You don't really care too much about the characters, it's more about the thrills. But the thrills here, outside of a couple of decent sequences where they build some tension, there's really not a whole lot here story-wise. 4 girls go down into a sunken Mayan cave thing that was like a burial tomb or something, and they get chased around by a shark for 90 minutes. That's the one thing that I really liked about this movie, is that it was only 90 minutes, because I don't know if I could have done like 2 hours with this thing. The footage itself is kind of dark and hard to look at. On top of that, it's really hard to tell the characters apart because they're all wearing scuba gear. The outfits all look the same. And of course, with any horror/thriller, you have to have main characters that make stupid mistakes. And in the case of this movie, the two main characters, the two sisters, their dad, who is a deep-sea diver who discovers this Mayan cavern, shows them a great white shark tooth. And of course, they seem to forget that when they decide to go deep-sea diving in this cavern. But of course, if you don't have a dumb decision made in these movies, you don't have a plot. There are some really dumb slow-mo sequences near the end, and they really don't add anything to the film. They're just really tacky and they come out of nowhere. More in terms of story structure, there is a ticking clock element here, which cool, you need to have like a ticking clock with these kind of movies because obviously humans can't breathe underwater, so we have oxygen tanks, which really could have been used effectively, but here it's really inconsistent. So normally, from what I've read, oxygen tanks can last anywhere from 3 to 5 hours. They're down there for 30 minutes, and they go from 100% to 40%. And then for the rest of the movie, they're going from 40% to 0%. But the amount of time that it takes them to get from 40% to 0% is significantly longer than the amount of time that it takes to get from 100 to 40. So they burn 60% faster than they burn 40%, which was kind of frustrating. At the very end, this film really isn't worth watching, especially not in theaters. If you like shark movies, you could throw this on Netflix or something. I probably wouldn't spend money renting it. It's not really worth it. I don't know, 90 minutes of girls screaming and swimming away from a shark just doesn't entertain me all that much. As it stands, I'm going to go ahead and give it a D. It's not completely unwatchable. It's just not really worth your time. So that's all I got for you for this episode. Like I said, I'm going to hit those last 2 movies in the next couple days, so expect that up within the week. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell if you want to stay updated every time I upload it, and I will see you later.